How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Canada. Today, I'm going to be counting down the top 10 most valuable Canadian half dollars between the years 1870 and 1921. So that is the Queen Victoria through to the King George V era of Canadian half dollars. The Canadian half dollar didn't actually officially begin production until the year 1870. Some of the smaller denominations began in the year 1858, but the half dollar came along a little bit later. Now, these are some of the absolute holy grails of Canadian coins. These are worth an absolute fortune. There are several different varieties and dates that you will need to look for, and in this video, I will show you how to identify those. But before I can get into this list, I would really appreciate if you guys would hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and also hit that bell notification so you can see my new videos as they are being released. I have made a whole lot of these lists in the past detailing some of the rare and valuable Canadian coins and coins from all around the world. If I have left out your country and you would like to see me cover that in a future list, then let me know down in the comments. But all of that being said, what do you say we get into today's list and count down the top 10 most valuable Canadian half dollars from the Queen Victoria through to the King George V era? Let's get it, guys. So as I start this list off, what I'm going to do is work my way from number 10 being the least valuable all the way up to number 1 being the most valuable on this list. There are several varieties that you will need to look for, and I will put examples of those up as I go along. So let's start this list off with number 10, which is the 1910 King Edward VII Victorian Leave variety half dollar. Now, 1910 is actually the last year for the King Edward VII before they switched the obverse to King George V. And in terms of value, this can be an extremely valuable Canadian half dollar. If you can identify the Victorian leave variety instead of the Edwardian leaves, it can be worth up to $20,000 for an MS65. If you're able to find one and it scored any higher than that, you can be sure there's going to be a significant price jump. It could double or triple even. Next up is going to be the 1904 Canadian half dollar. Now, this is another King Edward VII. You don't need to find any fancy varieties for this one. Simply, you just need to find one that is in a high grade state. You can be sure that a lot of these are going to carry premiums and values. Even if they are beat up in a low grade, they're probably going to be worth anywhere from $25 to a couple of $100 depending on their rarity and significance. As we go through the list, you can be sure that the value on the low end is going to increase as well. But I'm mostly giving you guys the values on the high end, and these are also dates that you should look for if you are making a scrap silver purchase. But the 1904, if you can find one of these, it can be worth $32,400 in an MS65. Number 8 is the 1905, which is another King Edward VII. You don't need to look for any varieties for the 1905 half dollar. You just need to find one that is in a semi-high grade state, because if you can find one that is MS63, it can be worth around $36,500. If you found one that scored any higher, you could be talking $50,000 or even up to $100,000 if it was MS65 or MS66, but that is very, very rare for any Canadian coins prior to King George V era. Number 7 is going to be the first Queen Victoria coin we are going to cover on this list, and that is going to be the 1871 H mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Hedon Mint in Birmingham in England. And you are also looking for a variety for this one. You are looking for the inverted AV. I will put an example of what you need to look for up on the screen. In terms of value, this one can be worth a decent amount of money. Even if it is in an AU condition, it can be worth up to $10,000. And when you start to hit the MS range, you can get around $40,000. The higher you go up, the more you can get. And if you got one that was around MS 65 or 66, you could be talking $100,000 coin. So that is for the 1871 Queen Victoria inverted AV H mint mark half dollar. Number 6 is the 1888, which is another Queen Victoria, and you are actually looking for the obverse 2 variety. I will put an example of that up on the screen. There are several different obverse varieties throughout the Queen Victoria years, and it can be very tricky to identify them. If you guys want some help in that, I suggest you go to coinsincanada.com. It is one of the most helpful sites, and actually the site where I get most of my prices for these coins. They are updated daily, and it is a pretty good rough guide, and also has lots of information when it comes to dealing with Canadian numismatics. But in terms of value, the 1888 Obverse 2 can be worth around $40,000 for an MS63. If it graded any higher, you can be sure that there's going to be some big price jumps. If you got one MS65, it could even be worth up to $100,000. Number 5 is going to be the 1899, which is another Queen Victoria, and you do not have to look for any varieties or anything special for this. You simply just have to find the date 1899, and if it is in a reasonably good condition, it can be worth up to $52,000 for an MS63. Even in a low grade, you're probably going to be talking a couple $100s for some of these half dollars that we're getting into now. Number 4 is the 1870 no LCW initials Canadian half dollar. And the story behind this is it was designed by Leonard C. Wyan. The first year 1870 half dollars were produced in 2 different obverse varieties, with and without the initials LCW on the truncation of the Queen's neck. The no LCW coins also lack a small shamrock behind the first jewel at the front of the crown, and the upper eyelid is straight. The upper and lower eyelids do not meet at the corner of the eye, and a large crease extends down from the corner of the mouth, and other minor differences appear as well. I will put some examples up to give you an idea of what to look for, but if you can find one of these 1870 Canadian half dollars and identify the no LWC initials, then it can be worth all the way up to $58,000 for an MS63 example. Number 3 is the 1914 King George V Canadian half dollar. And the reason that this is so valuable is because so few high-grade examples survived, and it has an extremely low mintage figure. It was only minted at 160,128, so you can be sure that not too many of those survived, especially in an MS state. But if you can find one of these and it scores an MS66, which there are a few known examples of, it can be worth all the way up to $80,200, and it could even be going upwards of $100,000 somewhere in the near future. Number 2 on this list is the 1890 Queen Victoria Canadian half dollar with an H mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Heaton Mint in Birmingham, England. And you are looking for the obverse number 4 variety. I will put an example of that up on the screen. And in terms of value, this is actually one of the most valuable half dollars on this list on the low end. If you can find one of these, even in an AG3, which is pretty much at the bottom of the Sheldon scale, it can be worth $850. So this is a great one to look for in scrap silver purchases, or if you get a collection handed down to you. Even if it's not in an MS state, it can still be worth a lot of money. Even if it's cleaned, people still want these things to fill those holes in their collection, so they will always carry a premium. But if you can manage to find one of these in a high grade state, it can be worth all the way up to $274,000 for an MS65 example. So that is buku money, not quite retirement money, but definitely enough for you to live quite comfortably for a few years off of one coin, that is for sure. Well, we have made it to number 1 on this list. I really hope you guys enjoy these videos and find them helpful. I have made plenty of lists in the past detailing some of the rare Canadian, British, American, Australian coins from New Zealand, Germany, and in the future, I'm going to be making plenty more videos on coins from all around the world. If I have missed out on the coins from your country, just let me know down in the comments, and I will make that list in the future. But what do you say we get into number 1 on this list, which is definitely one of the most infamous Canadian coins of all time, and that is the 1921 Canadian half dollar, which is basically, I would say, the big brother to the Canadian 1921 5 cent. Now, these are extremely legendary coins. The story behind the 1921 half dollar and the reason that it is so incredibly rare is basically that sometime in the late 1920s, the deputy master of the mint ordered that the stock of around 500,000 half dollar pieces be melted, and that a portion of the silver be used for producing 50-cent pieces that were dated and produced in the year 1929. And it would appear that most of the 1921 pieces were among those melted. This is a very similar case with the Canadian 5-cent coin, and very few high-grade examples survived, and it is basically referred to as the Prince of Canadian coins, and this is the big brother equivalent, and it definitely carries a massive premium and price along with it. If you can find one of these, even in a low grade state, if you find one of these around an AG3, which is at the absolute bottom of the Sheldon scale, it has pretty much been through the meat grinder and has just about no detail left on it, it can still be worth $12,000. So that just shows you right there how few of these survived, and even less of those in a high grade state. Because if you can find one of these In an MS-66, it can be worth up to $335,000, pushing the $400,000 mark. It is one of the rarest Canadian coins of all time, and anytime you guys go out to your coin shops or your flea markets and you make a scrap silver purchase, it is just one of those coins you should always keep your eyes out for, but definitely one of the most counterfeited coins as well. 1921 coins carry a huge premium, so you can be sure that there has been a few counterfeits produced over the years as well. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one. We have counted down the top 10 most valuable Canadian half dollars from the Queen Victoria to the King George V era. If you guys felt like I left out any coins on this list, just let me know in a friendly way down in the comments, and hopefully I can include them in a future video. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. So until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.